Oh, hello there. Yes, well, we do live in interesting times, don't we? Indeed. I'm so glad that I'm in a country where the Nigerian government has to suggest that people shouldn't come here because it's a bit dodgy. Yes, indeed. How low we have gone, haven't we? Thanks to all those concerned citizens that are out there. Legitimate concerns they indeed do have. But I think it's worthwhile just having a think about how exactly we got here, because you can trace things back, can't you, to the NF in the 70s. Yeah, Nigel Farage when he was at school, Mr. NF himself, indeed, yes, because he was becoming radicalised in politics. Very sensible, not far-right politics, obviously, because people aren't far-right in this country in the same way that they're not racist. Yes. Anyway, way back, when he was formulating his campaign, he would very often sort of suggest to people, the good white burghers of the UK, that their jobs were under threat from nasty foreigners, except the nasty foreigners in those days invariably were, well, people that like Polish sausage, usually, or something similar. Yes, quite localised nasty foreigners. Not really sort of Norwegians, though. Obviously a little bit more Slavic than that. And of course, well, we arrived, don't we, inevitably at the Brexit campaign. The Conservative Party were absolutely terrified about the prospect after the first coalition government bringing in all that delightful austerity, that there was going to be a Labour Party that would take over with a hung parliament. So they came up with a wizard wheeze, well done David Cameron, a wizard wheeze, that what they'd do was they would steal UKIP's thunder and they would have a referendum, promised it, because after all it was going to be a hung parliament, they wouldn't have to do it. And then it wasn't a hung parliament. So loads of people on their backbenches, the lovely Conservative MPs, very, very concerned citizens that they are as well, decided that we had to have it. So inevitably, having very nearly lost Scotland in a referendum, everyone decided that having a referendum that they certainly wouldn't lose, they decided to have a referendum. Anyway, after about 20 years of relentless propaganda in the press, combined with the dreadful effects of austerity, loads and loads of very concerned and upright and stout British working class people voted the wrong way. Yes, David Cameron had to go. You may remember that press conference with Boris Johnson. Might come back to him. Boris Johnson and Michael Gove the morning after. Yes, when the look on their faces of utter bewilderment, because of course the people had spoken and unfortunately the people were wrong, as they so often are. I can remember going out. I went to a little fish and chip place in Finchley, actually, I think it was, the morning after, and I said to somebody there, in this future in this country I wouldn't want to be a minority. Well, here we are in that future, indeed, yes, because it didn't need a crystal ball to see where we were going, because once you persuade people that their lives will be changed for the better if you stop one group of foreigners, then if their lives don't become better, because you don't actually change their material conditions in any way, then oddly they might decide to just blame other groups of foreigners that you didn't necessarily intend to, or you don't really care. So, of course, after Cameron, we had to have Theresa May getting Brexit done. Except we couldn't have a Brexit deal, according to Nigel Farage and indeed lots of Conservative backbenchers, so we didn't. So we all became a lot poorer. And then, of course, we had to have Boris Johnson, who was definitely going to get Brexit done years later. Yeah, him. Boris Johnson, yes. A man who went on holiday during the London riots. Might come back to holidays and riots. You never know. Yes. Had to have Boris Johnson, didn't we? Which led to, well, yes, the last government, which we've only just got rid of. And we are still suffering all those nasty effects of that last one, because that was a humdinger, wasn't it? We had to have them, though. Couldn't have that Mr. Corbyn, because he was, he was an anti-Semite and everything else, wasn't he? Or maybe not. Hard to say these days. Yes, indeed. And then, of course, after Boris Johnson, well, we had to have Liz Truss because, she was going to sort all those things out. And then after Liz Truss, we had to have Rishi Sunak because he was going to sort all those things out. And none of these things have happened. And now we have Keir Starmer, who also won't sort things out because he has decided that he needs to be a friend to big business. Yes. Such is the glorious nature of realpolitik, yes, where you have to make deals with people and hold your nose, except, of course, the people that are above us aren't particularly holding their nose. They've never really had any problem with that. historically, the British working class have always been sold out by trade union and other leaders. Which perhaps brings us neatly to where we are now. Yes, indeed. And of course, Tommy Robinson. Because he's actually on holiday at the moment and looking after. He can't come back for his court stuff because he's got to look after the kids. Although this hasn't stopped him being on Twitter about every 10 minutes, I did notice yesterday. And it's worthwhile just picking through some of the stuff that he was putting up yesterday. As I say, please do have a look at his Twitter feed because it is quite relentless. I imagine his kids have been, I imagine they're sleeping a lot because there doesn't seem to be a lot of parental activity. Oh, and by the way, his donation page is looking very empty at the moment, so please do donate to him. I imagine that various people of tax authorities in the UK might want to look at that particular one, but there we go. Yes, so in the afternoon we got this from him, quoting from Something Inside So Strong, which is one of those, really, mate, you can't make it up. Sort of ironic things, okay? I know that there was, they got some black performers to sing it to people in Trafalgar Square about a week or so ago. However, it's written by Labby Sifri, who is about as multiracial British as you can get, and he wrote the song about apartheid South Africa. Yes, you can't make this stuff up. But the beauty, of course, is Tommy Robinson. It's not so much that he's not very bright, it's the fact that he's actually brighter anyway, even though he's not very bright, than the people he speaks to. So none of the stuff that he says makes any coherent sense whatsoever, but please do donate to him, okay? I think that might well be important. A little bit before that, he wrote this. What the legacy media and politicians aren't telling you about the disorder across the UK, this is why the truth, they're trying to silence anyone pointing it out. Without Elon Musk ownership, they would have already done this. They want to shut you up and accept your fate. Yes. You see, luckily, people like Tommy Robinson have been barred, basically, on, hate speech grounds from pretty much all platforms. Elon Musk, in all his glory, has decided to allow people like our Tommy and Andrew Tate, a man who's quite happy to use the N-word, yes, to flood their platform. Yes, Elon Musk, who's suggesting about civil war in this country. Thanks, Elon. Yes, it might be nice, I think, if the government decided to bring in legislation to make media platforms like Twitter responsible for the content that there is in there. Maybe with just the concept of an open, unlimited level of fines. It would have problems getting through certain international courts, but bearing in mind that the WTO, the World Trade Organization courts, aren't working properly, I think Elon Musk would squirm at that one. Yes, it'll be interesting to watch. Anyway, a little bit before that, he put this up. Keir Starmer's message to the working class is simple. Your women and children can be murdered, groomed, raped and abused. Yes. So he's a perfectly reasonable man who's forever arguing for peace. And yet, at the same time, he seems to use some quite inflammatory language. Yes. And you will shut up for the sake of diversity. If you don't shut up, you're a Nazi and will be prosecuted. Yes. Yes, indeed. Not a Nazi. You see, Nazis, Tommy, just don't like Jewish people, but they are fascists. They do meet the criteria, and they're certainly racist. They do meet the criteria. Yes, nicely inflammatory language, which is actually illegal, okay? We still have hate laws in this country, and despite what people say in terms of, Muslims and Islam isn't a religion, no, it's still covered. It's still covered, basically, on the updated Race Relations 1976 Act, okay? You can be brutally horrible about someone's religion, and it still counts as a form of racism. Sorry, that's the law. It would be nice if the government actually did go through with prosecuting. Of course, all the free speech lot would be up in arms about that, but I think it would be worthwhile maybe dragging them on an actual legitimate news programme and asking them if it's acceptable to say your women and children can be murdered, groomed, raped and abused, because that does sound an awful lot like the sort of thing the Ku Klux Klan would come out about certain groups of people that weren't necessarily Muslim, wasn't it? Yeah. Not that it's a standard racist trope to just say they're after the white women, etc. We know what animals they are. Tommy does, and certainly his supporters do as well. A little bit before that, this is what you spastic lefties don't get. Notice the wonderful, wonderful phrases there. Thanks, Tommy. People don't say spastic anymore. Okay, Tommy, oddly enough, for some reason, mate, that got dropped because it was, hate speech. Yeah. If it seems that poor woman in Tamworth was raped by a Mohammed who was staying in the Holiday Inn, she wouldn't have been raped if he wasn't allowed into our country in the first place. I don't know, Tommy. You see, the problem with that, of course, is that if you want to talk about male violence towards women, it does get to be rather uncomfortable because it isn't actually simply located in people that follow one individual religion. And if we want to talk about people that have convictions for such things as, hitting women, it might get extremely problematic. But again, not the sort of thing that he's really going to answer to at all, because let's face it, I don't think he's coming back, is he? Just in terms of his deep political analysis, we get this from a little bit before. Comrade Starmer's Red Revolution. He will take zero responsibility. He is a Trotskyist after all. Now, I actually know a reasonable amount about different left-wing factions, and no, he's not, Tommy. Okay, I don't know why bother using the word Trotskyite. I mean, if you just want to generically have a go at a left-wing person, call them a communist. He's certainly not a Trotskyite. Okay, you can look up Trotsky. He was. I don't even know why I'm bothering to say that, because of course not. It doesn't matter though, does it? It doesn't matter, because anybody that doesn't agree with that far right, hey, let's just go there, viewpoint, automatically gets labelled as that. But that's okay, yeah. Tommy allegedly isn't far right, yeah. Nigel Farage allegedly isn't far right. GB News, not far right. How dare you? I'm the victim. Oh my God, they called me far right. Who have? Oh, the commies and the Trotskyites and the spastics. Right, you are then, mate. Okay, moving on. Yes. Tommy Robinson reposted this, and this is the cherry on the cake here, all right? Despicable, they're actually doxing the location of a man on a pre-arranged holiday with his children after claiming the disorder on the streets is all because of the EDL that has not existed for a decade. Yes, thanks, Stan, voice of Wales. Always good to hear a sort of nicely right-wing Welsh person on there. Just, it's entirely multicultural, isn't it? Yeah, people from as far afield as Cardiff, yeah. Anyway, yes, indeed. And of course, again, for a total lack of irony here, Tommy Robinson, a man who was convicted of stalking a journalist. Stalking a journalist because he didn't like what they were saying. Journalist that Tommy Robinson is stalking. And yet, dreadfully, apparently, it's been pointed out that he's on holiday. Dreadful. Imagine that, he's got kids. Think of his kids. I don't know. What about the other journalist kids? It's okay, they were a spazzy lefty, so it doesn't matter, does it? No. Anyway, I would like to see the current legislation that's being used actually being properly enforced, okay? It staggers me that these people, especially Tommy Robinson, but they're basically all of them, are just allowed to spew this racist hatred at us all day long. They are people that are in Spain or safely ensconced, not anywhere near Clacton, or like Carl Benjamin, not venturing anywhere out that people might recognise him, and they can just spew racist dirge at people, which leads to people being trapped in hotels that may or may not be set alight by a mob. And you might well not like the idea that Muslims come out to defend their homes. But are they or are they not people who have been pushed too far? I don't know. I'm starting to get the feeling that I'm the person who's being pushed too far. Maybe what I should do is go and burn some fascist houses down. After all, you can understand where I'm coming from. Don't I have legitimate concerns? Think of my child. Think of my child and his safety, yes. And there can only my only response to some little girls getting murdered is to burn down a hotel. Or, Tommy Robinson blaming globalists and the big pharma. Well, I might go down to AstraZeneca and throw bricks at them. I'm sure that'll stop children being murdered. Or maybe not. But I think something does need to be done about this, because it isn't going anywhere. These people are making money out of this. That's the worst part of it. Awful. Awful. Okay? Yeah. And think about all those pictures that you get of the capitalists rubbing their hands with glee whilst the working classes are distracted. Who does that remind you of? Anyway, do have a lovely Tuesday if you can. It'd be nice to have a proper thunderstorm for it to break. It is too sticky. Yeah, but good rioting weather, isn't it? Anyway, enjoy.